in total decrease in the one other item that I didn't read off to you is short-term debt is going from 187, 327 to 159, 988.
I see over $1 million drop in the
Right.
unless I misheard what you said.
One more time, non-exempt, 1,276,000.
Oh, you had 2 million.
said-
He said 2
You
million.
said
1
two.
million.
You said 2 million.
You said two, okay.
Yeah, that's what I wrote anyway.
You got our hopes up there.
1,276,668 to 1,133,441.
Yes.
Okay.
I
Okay.
think we all wrote
Yeah.
the 2 million.
We just heard
Un
what you said.
poquito. My apologies.
No apology
Sit
required.
down and start reading these numbers and
Okay.
so, some of the long-term debt is being retired, and obviously that accounts for it. And it also accounts to the fact that we'll be doing a permanent borrowing in September of this year,
Right.
which will result in
Now,
some.
by the way, we have to take it also into account, as last year, when we did the budget, we took $150,000 additional money out of debt stabilization and applied it to debt.
I remember.
So in
that,
other
yeah.
words, initially, when this account was set up, we said, we're gonna cap the debt at this number, and anything above it comes out of debt stabilization. But last year, we actually raised that by 150.
Right.
And I think in the budget, revenue plan and budget, I think we asked Joe to bring that back down, right, Greg?
We did.
Right.
We did.
Just so you know where we are when we look at the revenue plan.
Again, but what were the debt stabilization funds, Greg, this current fiscal year?
1,350,000 is the current balance, and the draw for this year was, so that number I just gave you, 1,350,000.
Was it
is
the beginning of the
current-
fiscal year?
No, it's current balance as of today.
Okay.
And the drawdown for this fiscal year was $655,000.
So we had over 2 million, is that?
Pretty close.
Sure, I wrote that right. Okay, thank you.
No, don't add that to this number. That debt
drawdown?
stabilization number is what we used to help pay for it.
No, I understand
This
that.
is the actual debt service.
Yeah, the 1,350,000 is what we have in debt stabilization fund. So
Yeah.
it's-
Oh,
today.
yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Okay.
so when we
Yeah.
started the
Yeah.
fiscal year before the
Yeah,
drawdown, we
yeah.
had close to $2 million.
$2 million, right.
Yeah, pretty
And
close.
anticipated use right now for the targeted debt service level?
Target number is
400 something, you said.
463, 441.
So that's what we expect in addition to be using?
To use
That's the
out of the
draw.
1,350,000.
Okay.
So at town meeting, what we do is we wrap in the motion will wrap in all of these additional funding sources. You heard Mr. Diamond mention this evening that they're budgeting an amount in the Hillview budget to pay for debt service associated with the fields. So that'll be listed as a funding source together with the debt stabilization fund. And there's a number of different sources. There's water department revenues that all kind of flow into this number at town meeting.
Thank you.
But the exempt debt, whatever is paid for is, in addition to what would have been the tax rate based on the levy limit. In other words, above the levy limit. And as that debt's retired, that portion of the tax rate that you're paying goes down to zero.
Right, I understand.
Because we never seem to retire anything. Retire one thing,
We-
add something
we
new.
We retire that.
Anything else on,
I want to talk about employee benefits, and I'm expecting it's going to take a little time, so bear with me for a few moments. This is a handout. I owe you some detail. It's not in the tab, so if you go to number 5 and you're looking for it, you will find it. Thank you. do is, I'd like to start off and go over some of the fixed costs that we've identified, and it's shown here on the sheet. It starts off with regional school assessment, and we don't really oftentimes talk about the regional school assessment, but I do want to give you an update because it's almost a $500,000 budget appropriation. The current year's budget is $437,455. And based upon information that I've recently received from the Northeast Regional Vocational School, that assessment will be, is projected to be at $439,365, so very small increase. The reason is that enrollment is level, so we have 37 children enrolled in that program this year, and it's estimated that there'll be the same number. And then the district communities that are part of that process have really indicated to the regional school that they don't have the money to fund an increase above what we have. So we originally had been carrying a higher number in this line item. I've gone ahead and I've adjusted it for 2011 based upon what I think is realistic. That's certainly good news in terms of the town, because in the past, we've seen some pretty big increases in this particular account.
Just a
Yes.
relation that, it's my understanding though, that they're actually projected now with what the communities have appropriated or are anticipating to be appropriated, are gonna end up in a $3 million deficit situation.
That would be good.
Are you, that's good?
No,
No, that's not good.
No, I was not aware of that.
How's that good?
That's
It's not good for the educational system at the regional vocational schools. So I don't know where it's going, but it's not boding well for the educational system there at the regional school system. And in addition to that, and we'll get into that too, I suppose, is the facility there. They're gonna be looking to, at some point, major renovations in that facility, because there hasn't been much done there in 20 years, 25 years. And
What's that
because
cost
of the structure, they're gonna have a difficult time getting things through, but at some point, the communities that are involved in this district are going to have to make the commitment, and it's someone's gonna step in and force the commitment to be made. I just think we should be well aware that, it's a school system which we've bought into, that's provided well for our kids that have gone there, and it's coming sooner rather than later, I think. I think if we could have the administration contact maybe the superintendent, who happens to live in North Reading, it might be helpful to get a better picture for us for planning purposes as to what we can really anticipate, rather than this is what's been appropriated and approved by the 13 communities, which is always the lesser amount. From what I heard, they're about $3 million short from what they need for level services.
For the current budget, or
Anticipated
2010 or
2011?
2011?
Upcoming.
Okay. Sounds about right.
That's about right.
We're only $2 million
We're looking
shy,
at,
you know.
right, over 2 million, so they're doing pretty good.
Did you say that they haven't
Fortunately,
done
I
any
ch-
work on their schools in the past 20, 25 years?
For a lot,
Structures.
major renovations, right.
It's the
facility's-
original facility,
Is
basically.
that right?
It's like 25, actually more than that.
Yeah, it's more than that.
I was on a Blue Ribbon committee back in 1988, I guess, so,
How
70-something.
how old are our buildings?
Old.
We've done some stuff to
The high school
ours.
was renovated once,
Yeah,
and all the other
twice.
buildings have been renovated, except for this one.
Not good. We've talked about debt. Specifically, let's skip over employee benefits, because I want to dedicate some time to that. The next item is state and county charges. These are items that show up on the cherry sheet. They're items such as the MBTA assessment, any county tax that's paid, any registry of motor vehicle surcharges, miscellaneous charges that show up on the cherry sheet that we're required to set aside in budget. We don't have any control over the number, other than when it comes in, we have to pay it. Our cherry sheet offsets typically deals with an amount that's set aside for library aid, It's very small, but we do need to account for the amount of money. The next item is reserve for abatements and exemptions. The amount that you see here is likely to increase depending upon what the disposition of the various abatements are. It's really early to predict with certainty what this number will be, because ultimately it's one of the last things that gets considered in putting the budget together. But at this time, we're carrying a number of $190,000 in that line item. We set aside an amount for funding the snow and ice deficit.
Greg, we've got 424,000 in
Right.
FY10
Right.
and 190.
That's the assessment year, the
Reval year,
reval year.
Oh, I'm sorry,
the
okay.
reval year. So we've increased it for 2010 in recognition of the reval. What we'll do is we'll carry any surplus forward, roll it forward for future years.
It goes into the overlay.
Yes.
Right.
It's reserved there.
But the reval was how much? 150?
150.
150.
Yeah.
So that brings us down to 275.
Right.
We're still looking at 190.
Yeah, I wouldn't put a lot of stock in that 190 number right now. It's really a number that needs to be determined by the assessors going forward. It's not a solid number at this point. It's just a number that's being put in there as a hold.
FY 2009, you had 285, that was not,
Which is close to the 275.
right,
Right.
right. So why wouldn't we want to be closer to that 285 number than the 190?
We do, and we're working toward that number, absolutely. We're working toward that number. It's just that we're not there yet.
Yeah, but I mean,
Why-
if we plug in numbers, why wouldn't we plug in something
Plug in-
that's more reflective of what we?
From a budget standpoint, it's easier to treat the number at the end of the line than the beginning of the line. And I can get into more detail about why I do that, but it's easy to deal with the number at the end for a lot of different reasons than at the beginning. It's been our practice to deal with the number as we get closer to town meeting and we have an opportunity to see what the disposition of those abatements are for this year. So I can just tell you that I'll update that number. I sincerely doubt that it's gonna stay at $190,000. I agree with you. We'll look to increase it. I just don't have any additional detail in terms of what it should be increased to, but we will look to increase it. The snow and ice deficit, this is the amount that we carry in addition to the annual appropriation for snow and ice. The deficit amount is what we set aside in our budget to pay for any deficit from the prior fiscal year. So we set aside $125,000. Retirements represents the cost of retirements for municipal and school employees over the course of the fiscal year. This is the amount that gets voted in the warrant article. It's not a budget item, it gets voted within the warrant article.
These are buyback figures?
Yes.
Is that what these are?
Yes, they are. Yes,
And we have no idea what that number is yet, right now.
that's right.
School department, the notification date was what, February?
I think it is sometime in February.
February,
Yeah.
right?
The end of February, so Kyle will be giving us some.
We'll find out probably on Friday. And then the additional item that's shown here is general property and liability insurance item. And we've been funding this at $300,000 for a long time, based upon what we consider to be a pretty favorable deal with our current insurer. This is for all of our property and liability policies, professional liability coverages that cover all boards and committees. And the amount is shown here as an amount of $300,000. What I'd like to do is, again, spend some time talking about employee benefits. I suspect that this is an area that you want to chat about.
Just on the overlay deficit and the reval.
Right.
Those are additional numbers that, for FY10.
Right,